What's up, everybody? Cewpins here, and today we are going to take a look at UFC Vegas 13, Thiago Santos versus Glover Teixeira, which is going to be a 5-round light heavyweight main event, and I'm excited for this one. There's actually a few great fights on the card. I am really interested to see this one. I already have a couple of bets picked out, so we're just going to get an overview of the card and I will let you know what I'm betting on currently. And if anybody wants to see my bets as I post them, I publish them all on betmma.tips/Cewpins, and then I also post them in my Discord channel. So if you check the links below, I will have links for the places where I post my bets, and maybe I'll do an update video for this card. But let's take a look at the very first fight here. We have a welterweight bout between Max Griffin and Ramiz Brahimaj. I don't really have too much of a read on this fight. I think the fight might go to decision. I know that Griffin goes to decision a lot. I do also understand that Brahimaj has, I think, a decent amount of wins by sub. Let me see if I can pull the number up here. 8 wins by sub. Wait, all 8 wins by sub? So my notes on this, I think Griffin might make this one go the distance if he doesn't get finished, but every single time this guy's won a fight except as an amateur, it was by submission. So I'm gonna take a look at the odds there. I think it's actually only plus 300. Might be worth a stab. Might throw it into a parlay, but I'm not really looking at too much on this fight. There is a 7-year age gap that usually favors the younger guy. But Max Griffin, I think, has been finished one time by KO. He's never been submit, and then he's also lost a bunch of decisions. So we'll see here. I'm gonna check a little more into the cardio to see who I might think will win the decision, but we could end up playing the Brahimaj submission there. Let's take a look at the next one here. Some of these I'm most likely gonna skip. I'm just gonna get a little bit of an overview for you guys that are probably looking into some more. Here we have another one with about a 5-year age gap. I like to look at the age gaps. I usually lean on the younger guy to have the advantage there. There's some data behind that, but not always. 5 years isn't tremendous here. There's nothing too crazy with the height and the reach. I think Garagorri has a lot of fights that end in the first round was one of the notes I wrote down. He's 13-1. He has only one win in the UFC and then one loss. Right, lost in the first round, and it's like 4 minutes into the first round. So he is the underdog here to start, but I do know that he is a very skilled fighter. A lot of his fights end in the first round. I think his average fight time is under 5 minutes across all of his fights. So pretty impressive there. I might look at a round one Garagorri pick, something like that. I might actually look at the money line on him to win, but right now, no picks on this fight yet. Um, we're still keeping an eye on the line there. I'm not sure what the price is. Let me just take a quick look. Yeah, right here. Garagorri, I think when it gets into the 200s or better, if I see that, I might throw a unit there. But I think until then, I'm just gonna look at a little bit of fight tape on Garagorri to see where I think his skill level's at because Darren Elkins is a really good fighter. So this is the first fight that I have a bet on. I have a max bet on this. I have a really good win rate with my max bets. I reserve max bets for fights that I'm pretty damn sure I'm not going to lose. You could still lose, but my bet on this one is for the fight to not go the distance. I was able to grab it at minus 300, and if you can get it at anything better than 4 or 500, I would say look at it. But this is one of those, I think by the time the fight actually happens, the no decision will be worse than minus 500. Romanov has never been to decision in 12 of his fights. He's finished every single fight that he's had. He's never heard a judge's scorecards, and he's never lost a decision. So, pretty interesting matchup here. He has a lot of submissions, and I believe every one of De Lima's losses, all 6 of his losses are by submission. It's actually 7. I think he has another loss where he lost by submission, but it was maybe a no contest or something. I think I wrote down 7 submission losses, unless one was an exhibition. He has 1 draw. Yeah, lost at least 6 times by submission. And Romanov has 7 submission wins. This is a heavyweight fight. I have a feeling that it could be Romanov submission round 1 or 2. I didn't really want to play it that way. I just took the safe bet on no decision at minus 300. If I would have seen better odds on under 2.5, I would have taken it. And I am going to skip the under 1.5 on this. I think Romanov's last fight went over 1.5 and ended in the second round, but I'm going to play it safe. I do like the odds. It's about the same odds on the money line here for Romanov. So I'm going to go with the no decision. I have a max bet on that. I have 5 units on it, and I'm feeling pretty confident in that. And I'm assuming by the time the fight goes live that the odds are going to be much, much worse. So that is one I have a bet on right now. It is a heavyweight fight to not go the distance. Let's take a look at the next one. We have Trevin Giles versus Bevon Lewis. Here's a middleweight fight. I think we have, similar age here. Lewis has the height and reach advantage. 3 inches taller, 5-inch reach advantage. And I think I wrote down here, I like maybe Giles to get the submission here, but I might end up passing on this fight. I just don't have too good of a read on it. I'm trying to get a better idea of where Lewis's grappling skill level's at. But I know what Giles can do. I've seen him. He does have 2 submission losses recently, but I have seen him in RFA and Legacy. I have seen him score submissions before over guys that have a decent ground game. So I may end up skipping this one. And I think Giles is only a purple belt too, so it's not like he's going in there with tons and tons and tons of grappling experience and a ton of competitions under his belt. But I am going to be looking at a few things there. Usually the middleweight and up fights I like to consider for a no decision more often than the lighter weight fights. But right now, no real looks at that. No real bets on that fight. I'm not going to go too much into their skill. We're just going to talk about kind of what I know here on the surface. So this is an interesting matchup. I think Chikadze is a huge favorite. I think I saw the odds. He was like minus. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, right here, 470 minus 500. Um, he's got a really good chance at winning here. He's an excellent kickboxer, great striking. He's going to have a pretty good time in there on the feet here, and he's facing Afro Samurai here, which I believe this guy's making his debut. Jamie Simmons. I know I've seen him fight before, but I'm trying to recall where. Oh, I watched this fight. Okay. Um, Jamie Simmons here. He's got a decent skill set. He's got a lot of amateur submissions. He has a submission loss as a pro. Does he have any sub wins as a pro? Looks like 1 here. This is going to be his UFC debut. I don't know too much about him. I've only seen the Childers fight, and it did end pretty quickly in the first round. I think I need to look into other fights before I can make an accurate assessment. On the surface, I looked at this and went, "Oh, probably Chikadze." Really great striker, doing really well in the UFC lately. But I do need to do a little bit of research on the Afro Samurai here, just to see if he might have a chance of winning. I got to see where his skill set lies. But as far as Chikadze goes, great striker, great on the feet, kind of hard to take down. So let's move on to the next one. No bets on this one, nothing yet. No real leans. I think Chikadze has hit his last 4 fights were decisions. I might look at the price on a Chikadze decision, but if Jamie Simmons is going to get finished, he's going to get finished. We have to figure that out. Here's one I'm interested in. I'm actually back and forth on this because I think both girls are really excellent fighters. Claudia Gadelha versus Xiaonan Yan. And this is an interesting one because they're both really high levels. I think they have or they're both really high level in what they do. I think Yan has the better striking and Gadelha has the better grappling here. And what I like about this, I think they have a common opponent. Let me see if I can find it. Oh, they have a couple of common opponents. They both have a decision win over Angela Hill, and I think Gadelha's is a split decision, if I'm not mistaken. And they both have a win over Karolina Kowalkiewicz. And I believe Gadelha has the sub win, where Jan has the decision win. So basically, in my opinion, this is a little bit of a grappler versus a striker here. I'm gonna look a little bit more into Yan's takedown defense. I have to see if I think she can fight the takedown. I know Gadelha can take down some of the better fighters. She's pretty good with controlling her opponents on the ground, and she does have some excellent submissions. But I believe if she can't get it to the ground, or if she can't keep it on the ground, she might not win because Vienne just has a tremendous output in her striking on the feet. If you look at a lot of her past fights, she just has so many strikes landed. So if Gadelha's unable to get that takedown, she might just fall behind in the strikes there. But this is an interesting one. I'm still looking at tape on this. I'm pretty sure this one's going the distance. I think if the fight ends, the only way it ends is Gadelha by submission. And I don't know if I see that. I want to check the price on that. But I am probably going to look at the over and then possibly fight goes to decision, some stuff like that on this bout here. It's an interesting one. I think they actually have somewhat even odds, if I can find it here. Yeah, somewhat even. We get slight favorite for Yan here, but very close to even. Um, I need to do more research on that one. That one's like a coin toss in my head. I don't really know. Let's take a look at the next one here. Here is another one I have a small bet on. I might look into another bet on this, but let's take a look at Ian Heinisch versus Brendan Allen. Here is a middleweight bout. And one thing I like to point out is there is an 8-year age gap just about that usually favors the younger guy. If a guy is more than 10 years younger, their chance of winning the fight is like 65% or something crazy. So always consider the much younger guy in certain fights, not every case, but we also have that Colorado cardio here. He might have the advantage in the gas tank here just because training in Colorado gives you a little bit of an advantage if you're at the higher elevation. Yeah, Factor X, he's at a mile high. So let's see. We're trying to Rufus Sport here though. I think I only wrote down a couple of things on this one. I do like um, Brendan Allen by sub here. Now, I don't think it's like definitely gonna happen, but I think he has a really good chance of winning by submission. I believe Heinisch has 2 losses by submission, and I think our guy Brendan Allen has like 8 wins or so by submission. If you look at a lot of his recent ones, rear naked, tons of rear naked wins, tons of them, even other submissions. That's something you have to worry about too. Sometimes a guy only knows one submission, but he's got a triangle choke, he's got an Americana, he's got a little variety. He's not just getting that high percentage rear naked choke. But even as an amateur, 4 out of 5 fights he finished with rear naked. Just on that note alone, I put a little bit, 0.2 units on Allen by submission. I think I got it at plus 500. It opened at 550. I missed that price, but I got it at plus 500. Just a tiny little 0.2 unit. If he wins, I get a whole unit back. But I'm willing to take a little stab at this one. I think it's possible that this one could go the distance. Just looking at some of their recent fights, these guys do have some fights that have gone the distance recently. More so for Heinisch, I think 1, 2, 3, 4 out of the last 5 have gone to decision. But I am counting on our guy Brendan Allen to have a slight grappling advantage. He is a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and Ian Heinisch is only a purple belt. So the skill level, the amount of time on the mat could be different there if Allen is able to get it to the mat. So we'll see how that works out. But I'm really excited to see this one, and I think if our guy Allen wins, he's going to be looking for a submission the whole time. So let's take a look at, we got 3 more fights on the card here. And I'm not going to edit this. We're just going to throw the whole thing up raw. I don't have a whole lot of time to chop these up anymore. But Raoni Barcelos versus Khalid Taha. This is a fun one because I think Barcelos here is making a short notice trip here. He hasn't had a whole lot of time to prepare for this opponent. I mean, the same goes for both guys, but I think we got a replacement scenario here, and it's given Barcelos like 10 days notice for this fight. So he is a very skilled fighter. He's 15-1. He has only one loss, and that is before his UFC career, and he is undefeated in the UFC with 4 wins. 3 finishes and 1 decision win in the UFC. So a pretty good record here for Barcelos. He's a pretty skilled fighter, but he is a little on the higher end of the age scale here. 35 years old versus 27. We have that 8-year age gap. And we got the Brazilian versus Khalid Taha. I know Barcelos is a black belt, and I couldn't find the belt rank of Taha here, but I do know he has some submission wins. His last fight, he won by submission. He did submit another Brazilian, Bruno Silva. He has other wins on his record by submission. He's also lost by submission. It's hard to me to get an accurate read or a complete read of where his jiu-jitsu skill set is at. I'm gonna see if I can find a belt rank, but sometimes fighters aren't ranked or they don't go for belts. But I might look at some of these previous fights to get an idea. I'm kind of smelling a grappling bout here. I mean, we could end up having the grappling cancel itself out and they just go for some striking. But I'm kind of feeling like we're gonna see some play on the mat here, and I just want to figure out who I think can win it. I know Barcelos has some decent striking. He's got some power in the hands, can finish on the feet. So can Taha, but I don't really have a bet on this fight. I think I'm going to look at the sub props for maybe both guys. I mean, Barcelos has his only loss is by submission, and I think we could get a decent price on it just because it's a German versus a Brazilian. I got to look at the prices, but I think I glanced earlier and it was like 500 for Barcelos, 1600 for Taha. But I'm not super confident on the subs there. I want to look at some recent tape on both guys and see where I think they're at. But no bets here on this one. Let's look at the co-main event here. This is an interesting one. We've got Andre Arlovski versus the bulldozer Tanner Boser, who's actually been doing really well lately since I've been noticing. What, he's fought 3 times this year. He's been doing really well this whole year. Oh, 2 times. This will be his 3rd time. He lost to Ciro Gain. I remember that fight, and then two wins by KO TKO recently. This is rough because Andre Arlovski's 41 years old. We got that 12-year age gap in this fight, and Arlovski has just been not doing super well. I mean, he's got a decent skill set. He's pretty veteran savvy in the cage. I mean, he's definitely leaning on his experience in a lot of his last fights. If you look, he's not just going out there like the young pit bull, but he's still having issues. I mean, he is fighting high level competition, losses to Augusto Sakai, Jairzinho Rosenstruck. He's not fighting, a bunch of newcomers. He's fighting some of the higher level guys. Win over Ben Rothwell. I mean, he's capable of winning here, but as he gets older, that skill level, that total ability overall is just gonna go down slightly. I think. I don't know. I'm probably gonna skip this fight. I usually like to look at the heavyweight fights and the middleweight and up for the no decisions or my under props, but Boser has a lot of decisions. He's hard to finish. He has a lot of decision wins too. Yeah, 12 decisions on his record out of how many fights? 26. So a decent amount of decisions, close to a 50% decision rate. I think I'm probably just gonna pass overall. That I maybe will bet on. No, I probably will bet on an over, but I might look at either guy to win in round one or something if I can get some juicy odds. But I don't see it in this fight. Probably just a pass overall, and we'll save our money to bet on the main event here. I'm not completely decided, but I have a few leans on this fight. I do know I really like Thiago Santos at light heavyweight. I mean, if we just take a quick look at his career, he was doing very well at middleweight, even in the UFC. Couple of losses here. I mean, Gegard, who's a savage, Spicely, who's a savage. But he's still winning at middleweight. The issue for him is he's so big, he has to cut so much. I think a lot of the times, if your weight cut's not perfect, he might have just been drained in some of these fights. But you can see wins over like Marshman, Mearshart, Hermanson, Anthony Smith at middleweight. He did lose to David Branch, and then I think that's when he moved up. That was his last middleweight fight. Yeah. No, excuse me. Kevin Holland right after. And then he moves up to take on Eric Anders, Jimmy Manoy, Jan, who is the current champion right now at light heavyweight, has a win over the current champion and a split decision loss to John Jones. So I think this fight is interesting because if Thiago Santos wins this fight, it's a title shot. I think that's true for either guy. I think if Glover Teixeira wins, he would get a title shot. But I think this is a really important fight for Santos. I think he's the favorite here, obviously. I think he has a really good chance at winning. And I think he did well in his fight with John Jones. I mean, he didn't get finished. He went 5 rounds with Johnny Bones, who many people would call the GOAT, went 5 rounds with him, came out with a split decision. Didn't win that, but didn't lose. I mean, didn't lose by way of finish, lost by way of split decision. But I think if Thiago Santos wins here, if you look at his record, he's winning the majority of his fights by KO. He's hitting people hard. Okay. He he has a very, very high knockout percentage. A lot of KOs on his record. 15 KOs, only one submission win. He has been knocked out before, but not recently. The last time, I guess the 2018 is kind of recent. Last two losses, 2016. One of those is a submission, though. He's got he's got a good chance at a KO here. If you look at Teixeira, his opponent, he's been knocked out before. But Teixeira is one of those guys who's also been facing the higher level competition. I think the advantage here does lie a little bit. I don't know. I don't know really who has it, the grappling advantage, but I think Teixeira just based on his record and based on how he fights, has a higher chance of getting a submission. I think if we see a submission in this fight, it's going to be Glover Teixeira. I think if we see a knockout in this fight, it's going to be Thiago Santos. And I think it's also possible for this fight to go the distance. I mean, both of these guys have the ability to go 5 rounds. Both of these guys have decent cardio for light heavyweight. They're both capable of doing it, but then we got to consider, Teixeira's a little bit older. He's 41. After 40, it's rough in the fighting game. Not many guys can fight for many years after 40. So I'm leaning on Santos here. He is the favorite here. I would think he could get a finish. I would think he could knock out Glover Teixeira. I want to see how many times Teixeira's been knocked out. 3. He has 3 losses by KO, TKO, and he has 4 losses by decision. Teixeira's never been submit, but Santos has. I think I'm going to be looking at, I don't have the price on it yet. I'm going to be looking at under 4.5, maybe under 3.5 rounds. I don't think this fight goes too long. I think the no decision price isn't good for me right now. It's like minus 400 or something. I would consider under 3.5, under 4.5 with a better price. I don't think we go past 3 rounds in this fight. But I'm also considering looking at Santos by KO as opposed to inside the distance if I can get a better price on it. And then I'm going to consider looking at Teixeira by submission if there's a good price on that. But as of right now, we're waiting on the price here. Maybe an under 3.5 would be a good option for me, or maybe fight doesn't start round 4 or something like that. So just a quick overview. I only have a couple of bets locked in. I did mention that you can find my picks on betmma.tip/Cewpins. But I do have a max bet on the Romanov, the Lima fight. Fight does not go the distance. And then I do have a small 0.2 unit bet on Brendan Allen by submission. Those are my only bets currently placed right now. But there are a few others I'm considering. I mentioned them here on the video. And I will publish those, like I said, on the Bet MMA site, and then I'll post them in my Discord. So make sure to follow me there. Check out the description for all my socials. And if you follow me on Twitch, I watch the events and give out all of my live plays. Last week on the Silva Hall card, I won the most money I've won all year, and it was all live bets. I didn't have any time to research the card. I started researching the card 12 minutes before the first fight. So I didn't have a ton of time to do research, but I ended up making a ton last week. So if you tune into the Twitch streams, there's a good chance I might have more picks by then or some more picks right before the fight start. But I appreciate you guys chilling with me, and it was good to get this video out. And I will see you guys maybe for another video this week with some more refined, updated picks. Appreciate you hanging out. Later.